The morning was gray, not the soft, gentle gray of a quiet snowfall, but the heavy kind that presses down on a city and makes everything feel smaller. The kind of Rhode Island cold that creeps through courthouse windows no matter how high the heat is turned up. I remember sitting in my chambers a few minutes longer than usual before taking the bench. I adjusted my robe and looked at the photo of my father on my desk. He used to tell me, "Frank, the law is written in black and white, but life is lived in the gray." That morning I didn't yet know how true those words were about to become. When I walked into the courtroom in Providence, everyone stood just as they always do. The familiar sounds followed, chairs sliding, papers shuffling, throats clearing. It was an ordinary traffic calendar: speeding tickets, expired registrations, red light violations, routine matters, quick explanations, quick rulings, case dismissed, court costs, drive safely. The rhythm was steady until Inspector Quinn called the next name on the docket. Arthur Vance. I looked up and saw a man rise slowly from the back row. He didn't rush. He steadied himself on the bench in front of him before standing fully upright. He wore an old military field jacket. The olive color faded into a tired gray. The fabric was thin at the elbows but clean. He held a small hat in both hands as he made his way to the podium. There was something about the way he walked, proud but weary. The kind of walk you see in someone who has marched long distances in his life and is still standing out of habit more than strength. I looked down at the file. 5 citations, all for overnight parking violations, restricted zones, parking in a public park after hours, loitering in a vehicle. On paper, it looked like someone who simply refused to follow the rules. "Good morning, Mr. Vance," I said. "Good morning, Your Honor," he replied, his voice raspy, as if he hadn't spoken much lately. I explained the charges and asked if he understood them. "Yes, sir," he said quietly. No excuses, no arguments, just acceptance. I leaned back slightly. "Mr. Vance, why were you parked in these locations night after night? You know you can't leave your car there." He took a breath and looked down at his hands. "Your Honor, I have nowhere else to go." The courtroom went silent. "Nowhere else to go?" I repeated gently. He nodded. "I've been living in my car for about 3 months. Lost my apartment when the rent went up. My pension just couldn't cover it anymore." He swallowed hard. "That car is all I have left. I park in quiet places so I don't bother anyone. I try to be gone before morning. I try to be invisible." Invisible. That word stayed with me. I glanced at his jacket again. "Did you serve in the military, Mr. Vance?" He straightened immediately. It was instinct. "Yes, sir. United States Army, Vietnam, 1969 to 1971. A murmur moved through the gallery. I did the math. He was a young man when he served. A young man in a war that left many scars, visible and invisible. And now here he was, decades later, sleeping in a car in the cold. "It gets cold at night?" I asked. "Yes, sir. I run the engine 10 minutes every hour to get some heat. That's probably why the officer saw me. I wasn't loitering. I was just trying not to freeze." 5 tickets, $500. For a man living on a fixed pension and sleeping in a car, that amount might as well have been 5,000. I removed my glasses for a moment. The heating vents hummed softly above us, keeping everyone in that room warm while he described frost forming on the inside of his windows. "Do you have family?" I asked. He shook his head. "My wife passed 5 years ago. We didn't have children. It's just me." Pride was written all over him. He didn't want pity. He didn't want charity. He just wanted to survive without being noticed. I picked up my pen. "Mr. Vance, the law says you cannot park overnight in those zones. The law exists to maintain order, but the law was not designed to punish someone for being homeless." I paused. "Regarding these 5 citations totaling $500, I am dismissing them. All of them. You owe the city nothing." A soft exhale swept across the courtroom. He blinked rapidly. "Thank you, Your Honor." "But dismissing tickets is the easy part," I continued. "I cannot in good conscience let you walk back out to that car tonight in this weather." Inspector Quinn was already reaching for his radio. Veteran services were contacted. A bed at a shelter was discussed. But I felt that wasn't enough. "We have a small private fund in the court named after my mother. She believed that if you have bread, you share it. I authorized funds for a hotel room for the next week. A real bed, a shower, heat that doesn't shut off after 10 minutes. Mr. Vance's hands trembled on the podium. "You don't have to do that," he said. "Yes, we do," I replied. "You serve this country. The least we can do is make sure you are warm." Then something remarkable happened. A young nurse in the front row stood up. "Your Honor, my father was a veteran. I'd like to cover his meals this week." A construction worker stood next. "I'll put in $50. Another person offered $5. Money began appearing, not as charity, but as gratitude. Mr. Vance turned around slowly, looking at the strangers who were now reaching into their pockets for him. "I thought everyone had forgotten," he whispered. "I thought I disappeared." "You have not disappeared," I told him. "We see you." When he finally left the courtroom, he gave me a trembling salute. Not perfect, not sharp, but sincere. After a short recess, the next case was called. A young man named Michael Davis. Speeding. 45 in a 30 zone. Before hearing his case, I told the courtroom what had happened during recess. Michael had come into my chambers and handed me his last $20 for Mr. Vance. He was a student. He worked part-time. That 20 mattered. "Mr. Davis," I said, "the law requires me to address your speeding, but it also allows me discretion. A man who gives his last $20 to help a stranger understands responsibility." I dismissed his ticket. "Slow down on the road like you slowed down today to help someone," I told him. He promised he would. Later, as I was preparing to leave, Inspector Quinn called me over to the security monitor. Outside on the courthouse steps in the falling snow, Mr. Vance was waiting for the veterans van. He wasn't alone. Michael was sitting beside him on the stone bench, sharing something hot from a thermos. When the van arrived, Michael stood, picked up the older man's bag, and helped him to the door. He didn't just wait, he stayed. That image stayed with me the rest of the day. We had dismissed tickets, yes, but more importantly, we dismissed invisibility. That night, Arthur Vance would sleep in a warm bed. Michael Davis would drive home a little more slowly, and I would go home reminded that the law is not just about rules, it is about people. The law may be written in black and white, but justice lives in the gray. I'm Frank Caprio, and remember, be kind to one another.